do you not see something here, right? Like, why is that? And I say, I only want to be paid equal.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not asking to be
to give me
Cristiano
more.
Ronaldo and Lionel Messi paid, right?
Yeah.
I want to be average on all of this, right? And so,
Equity.
but in any type of discussion like that, whether it's feedback to your boss to say, and I've had it with my current boss, I go, I don't like the way you navigated that discussion, right? When there's been a conflict, I say, you should have spoken up more.
Yes.
Right? Because you put me in a vulnerable position. Right? So it's that confidence to do that. But the only way that I had that confidence to do that is not because it's like, oh yeah, randomly run into a store and have that conversation. It's being prepared and right, I need to go and have this awkward conversation. It's an awkward conversation, isn't it? How am I going to prepare myself for that conversation? Yes. So maybe it's a confidence thing. So I'm scared.
Yes.
Who's in my trusted network that I can speak to talk to them and open them up about this and say, I need to have this conversation. It's uncomfortable, but I'm scared.
Yes.
Yeah? Right? So I need to go and speak to Ayo and have that mentoring conversation. Or Constance and have that coaching conversation.
Yes.
Right? Or you might not be scared, but then you go and articulate yourself in a completely wrong way.
Right, yes.
And then they'll go, do you know what? That negative relationship has got even more negative.
Absolutely.
Right? And so it's how do you kind of read that, book smart, life smart,
exactly. Street smart.
With all of this, whoever you're working for is who you're working for. So one of the reasons why I've always been able to progress is because I've always had a career path in my mind for myself.
Absolutely.
Regardless of wherever I'm working.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The organizations I've been working, if you flip it on its head, have been enablers for the career path that I already had in my mind. It's important that people know where they want to go. So some people don't want to be a global health and safety director. Some people don't want to be a regional. Some people want to be a site leader or a site EHS or an advisor. That's their ceiling or that's where they want to go. But they need to know where they want to go, right? And so having that career path is really important. So don't wait until you have that line manager conversation when you talk about development plans, right? So most organizations, they have a mid-year review and an end-of-year.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a tick box. You should be prepared for those conversations. I have it with my own team. I go, like, this one-to-one we're having doesn't need to be about the tactical stuff that we do. Talk to me about your development plan. And they go, well, I was hoping you'd give me all some advice. I go, no, you own your development plan.
Yes, you do, absolutely.
I enable your development plan to come to play, or I'll calibrate you on some of the things, just like this kind of conversation. But you ultimately, I can't turn around and tell you where you need to go. You need to know where you want to go, right? And then we have a conversation on, what that development plan, have you kind of navigated in the right way? So I've always had that development plan for myself, right? I want to do this, I want to be a leader, right? I don't know what type of leader it was, but I wanted to be a leader, right? That was in my chemist days at GSK. So I went into health and safety as a site level position. Then I was like, all right, I just want to really do well in this position, right? That's my career path. I now want to step into health and safety. Then they offered me the position in regional, and I thought, oh, then you're starting rubbing shoulders with all these regional people and these site leaders and leadership positions, and you go, well, maybe I don't need to stop here.
Yeah.
I can be one of these people. I can be one of them, right? So this is where your development plan can continue to evolve. So you always need to have that development plan. So when I was in Reckitt, and I didn't mention, so I recently graduated doing an MBA, right? So I embarked on my MBA in 2021.
Did Reckitt pay for it or you pay for it yourself?
No, they did, right? Okay. So it was at Warwick Business School.
Yeah.
So one of the top business schools
another
for
red
MBAs.
brick.
And it was good. And that's why, thankful to the organisation I worked with. But it was my boss that had to be the sponsor for the organisation to invest in me. So I did the MBA. 2021 we started. Our middle son, Keenan, he was, or our middle child, Keenan, he was 18 months when he started. So when I started the MBA, we had 2 kids. When I finished, we had Noel. Our third kid was born in 2022. So during that experience of being a health and safety leader, being a family person, and trying to do the MBA. Everyone goes, how did you do it, Krishnen?
Yeah.
How did you do that MBA? And I go, I don't know. I just did it though. But then I go, and because a lot of people that are doing other learning things that I speak to within Reckitt, they go, how did you do it? I don't know how you did it because I'm doing this course. You had a family. I said, yeah, but we had an extra child as well in that time as well. I go, everything keeps moving. I go, I found my formula. So my formula was I studied when my family was sleeping.
Yes.
Right? That was how I did the grafting on these papers and reading these books and doing these, courses. It was a distance learning one, so half face-to-face and then a little bit distance learning, whatever. I stayed connected with my network. So when I did my finance paper, I connected with my finance directors in the company and they helped me. Because if you go to people and ask for help, more than likely, they'll say yes.
Yes.
And that's what my finance director did. When I did my marketing paper, I went to my marketing colleagues. Yeah. They helped me out, whether it was conversations, corridor chats, even with the finance paper, the finance director pretty much did it for me, right? And he goes, right, look, answer it like this. I thought, boom, that gives you the head start. Because a lot of the time in our field, because we're a technical field, people like to overthink a little bit. Honestly speaking, I speak to EHS managers out there and they're giving me all of this, and I go, you're overthinking it.
Yeah.
Simplify it. So then that finance director, Chris, his name is, right? I was like, oh, fantastic. We had to compare two like annual reports and the finance details of it. I thought, like, you're giving me a head start. Wonderful. Sustainability paper. I went to our head of sustainability and I went, I'm a bit stuck on what topic to discuss. He goes, you could talk about this. The environment director, they gave me ideas. They invested their time to help me with my paper.
Yeah.
Right? The head of health and safety. Because I asked.
Because you asked,
One of them, he was traveling. I went, are you free? He goes, yeah. And he called me sitting in the lounge of an airport, right?
Yeah.
And then he goes, what are you looking to do? I'm like, looking to write about sustainability. He goes, oh, look, I can send you loads of these board papers. I'll send them to you. That'll cover this first half of your question. All right? He invested his time when he could be having his, like, I don't know, whiskey and Coke or whatever. He was there and I went, like, you're in the lounge, you should be relaxing. He went, no, I love it. I love it. I love having this conversation. And these are senior leaders in an organization. They want to help, right? But they won't come and ask you, do you need help? Because there's so many people surrounding them.
There's another element of it. Some people did ask, they didn't get the help.
Yeah.
From their colleagues. And that then pushed them off. And they just stopped asking. And they suffered in silence until the organization pushed them out.
Yeah.
So there is this other element is that.
Yeah.
Because I've seen this. People working shift and they're learning on the job. They said, oh, a body system. This person is going to train you. And that person doesn't show them anything. You know?
Yeah.
So in that instance, what would that person do? Because this is real life. This is happening to people as we speak.
Yes.
If you go to Twitter, Instagram, you see people saying, I've just started this work as a customer service agent. They've asked me to speak to this colleague and they wouldn't show me anything. And now I'm suffering. I don't know what to do. Yeah. So what do you advise people to do in that instance? Because in this case, they're not scared. They're asking. I know some people was like, they have more resilience than the other. And that's why we do psychometric tests as well. And you see some people's resilience is that high, some people's resilience is low. But we're talking about equity. Equity is meant to create an atmosphere that helps everybody,
feels,
not because you have a higher resilience than the other person. So how do what I'd give these people that are suffering in silence?
Everyone needs to develop their cross-cultural management or leadership. Cross-cultural intelligence. So in the MBA I did, there was a section around cross-cultural intelligence. Super important.
Yes.
Super important. Whether you're a leader or whether you're a frontline employee.
Yes.
It's super important because everybody is very likely somebody working within your team out there, no matter what level of the organization is, there'll be some cross-cultural management involved.
Yes.
So if we're not savvy to that and we think we can work siloed with it, whether we're from the more Eastern countries, which is very hierarchical and you only speak up when you're spoken to, or we're from the Western, which is a bit more like open and whatever, and you can interrupt and so on. You've got to be able to navigate that both ways, right? And so I would always offer people to put that as part of their development plans.
Yes.
How do I develop my savviness in being cross-culturally,
Yes.
you know, that ability and that aptitude
I like that. I
in
like that
working
a
it
lot.
is being high.
Yes.
I like it.
Right? That's just that book and life smart.
Yes.
And street smart as well, right? That's all three
Yes.
high on
Yes.
that. Because if you know how to navigate that, right? So in my team, I've got a team that's furthest is in Shanghai, east, west is in Mexico, right? I know with the Asian, right? The people that in Asian countries and whatever, they will always be quiet while I'm blah, 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 blah,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But then I always go, right? And then the dominant ones always kind of take over the court. But then I always go, person X, what do you think? Right? And then they'll flow. But without me giving that trigger point,
Yeah, they wouldn't.
they wouldn't have opened
Yes.
up.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's me coming in going, I know what his culture's like, or
Yes.
her culture's like,
Yes.
or their culture's like. I know that. And I'm going to be able to navigate this facilitation in that way. So looking at it from the other side
Yes.
up, right? Like, you know, we're in more a local situation. The more you're prepared with that, like knowing that's cultural intelligence and whatever, you can develop it, because if the bosses around you, because a lot of middle managements, they don't get it.
Yes.
Right? They're the difficult ones. Like all the leaders, they get it. And then you go to someone's supervisor, they don't really get it.
Yeah.
Because they're like only 1-2 years in position. They're just trying to get output,
absolutely.
whatever,
Yeah, absolutely.
and whatever. And
Yeah.
they don't
Yeah.
get it, right? And then you go, right, how do you show? Well, that person that's trying to ask for help, show your savviness, you know, reach out to a network that will eventually give you that help, whether it's internally or externally, right? Because maybe you might be asking that question in a way that it's not being absorbed. It's like going back to that days when I first stepped into the EHS manager role of the site. It took me a while to turn around those engineers. It took me a while, right? They were like, you know, not doing stuff and whatever. I had to I got knockbacks. I was rejected, right? I went back and thought, right, how do I rework my plan
Yeah.
on engaging them? Sometimes it doesn't work first time, all right? Sometimes you need to kind of think, how'd you go back? But then you go, do I go back and say the same thing and do it the same way? Or is it a case of situation where I need to refine the way that I'm going back and asking for that help so that they can understand what I'm trying to say? Because you're working around this cross-cultural thing. I'm saying it a way where I can understand what I'm trying to say, but they interpret in what I'm trying to say. So the best thing I always say to anybody working out there, like frontline leadership levels, is you need to be translators. You know, like unofficially, you need to be translators.
Yeah.
So like when you got people like me from a global level and saying, right, you need to do this and global strategy this, those people working locally, I always say, you
Yeah.
need to be able to translate this to what's working for you locally.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's the same concept of, right, when I'm asking for have they understood what I'm trying to say to them? If the answer is no, reflect on how you would do it
But
differently.
a lot of this, you talk about cross cultural, which is quite important. But we've put onus on individuals, because I'm just not concerned. I know that there'll be a lot of people watching this podcast and they'll be thinking to themselves, nah, that's not the situation.
Good.
Shouldn't organizations be doing more?
Yes, indeed, definitely. So one of the things I sit on an ERG. ERGs are employee resource groups.
Yeah.
Some organisations have them, which are set up for underrepresented groups. In Reckitt, we have 4. We have one for women at Reckitt, so it's looking at gender. One for LGBTQ+, and their community. One for disability, and one for race and ethnicity.
So they've not locked it together. They've given each one.
No.
Yeah.
And then in sub-regions,
Yes.
some have like even others, like one for parents.
Yeah.
Because they could go, right, Reckitt started this journey in the last 3 years.
Yes.
You know, I've done some benchmarking out there. Other global organizations like GSK have, over 30, right? So employee resource groups are called affinity groups. In fact, my dissertation for my MBA could have gone in different ways, right?
Yeah.
So as a health and safety professional, I could have done my dissertation within on a health and safety specific topic.
Yes.
But here's where my leadership came in. I went, no, I don't want to do about that because I already know about a bit of health and safety. I did my dissertation topic on employee resource groups within global organizations because I knew I worked very closely within the DE&I field within my organization, and I was very connected with my stakeholders globally within Reckitt.
Yes.
And I was speaking to our chiefs in the interviews that I did for my research. I was speaking to frontline employees from East, West, all over the globe, right? That developed me in terms of my cross-cultural intelligence, management, leadership, insights. I learned a lot.
So this ERP, you call them, this
ERG.
these ERG groups, what is their mandate? What are they meant to do?
Yeah, so that's the interesting one, right? So the idea is that it could be anything really. You know, how do you kind of create more awareness of these underrepresented groups? How do we create position? How do we create, platforms? How do we, many, many things. So within race and ethnicity that I work with, within Reckitt, and I'm a member of all four, right? Because I believe in, DE&I across the board. I'm currently working within a representation and progression pillar, right? Because that's the bit I'm passionate about, right? So I've got colleagues that work on awareness. So they do a lot around the campaigns, Black History Month, these kind of things, all of this, Ramadan, all of these kind of things. And, I love it, right? But me being a career person and hopefully going to make other steps in my career. I'm only 42, by the way, so hopefully there's still steps to go in my...
what we've heard today, the sky's the limit.
In other things, it's like, for me, it's about representation and progression. Why? Many forums, whether it's internal or external, I don't see many people that look like me.
Yes.
I don't see many people that talk like me. And I want to see that, right? I want to see more representation out there. I love progression because there's many, many people for each one of us. There's many, many people out there that are going to be much better than us, right? That are waiting in the wings. So that progression is really important for me. So we're working on things like mentorship programs that we've introduced within Reckitt for these underrepresented groups.
Fantastic.
And then, I mentor some of those, right? So it's very easy. You put very similar to the IOSH mentoring platform where the mentee will go and select and reach out to the mentors.
Yeah.
And then it's through this network. So the most senior Black person within our company is SVP level. He's, very involved in D&I as well. Everyone don't really speak to him, but I speak to him regularly because I work with him in my BAU activities.
Yes.
And I said to him, look, you can be a mentor here. And he goes, I'd love to be a mentor. I said, but you need to kind of put a mentoring profile together. He goes, I'll do it. I go, I know you're a busy person. What did he do? He put a mentor profile together.
Oh, good.
And he's part of one of the mentors out there. And everyone on the pillar that we're on, they were surprised. I said, if you don't ask, you don't get. Right? And he's all on it. So so it's like things like that, mentorship programs. In fact, in the car, in the Uber on the way here, I was on the call with that progression pillar, and we were talking about, well, what's the next steps? We've implemented this mentorship program.
Good.
What's the next steps for the community? So it's things like this where organizations have to be looking at this because we're finding constraints.
Yeah.
Sometimes the calls come a bit of a complaining call, and I'm challenging the same thing, right? So what do we need to do? How are we going to build strategy around this? How are we going to influence our stakeholders that we got? How do we utilize our allies, and our allyship out there to help this pillar? So I don't know if that's answered your question.
No, it does.
Absolutely. I think it's even answered more because I was going to get to a point where I was actually going to ask. So from your opinion, what do you think what initiatives can organizations, put in place to probably promote diversity and inclusion in their workplace? Well, I think this absolutely nails it.
Yeah.
This is, it's
I believe
listening
a
to
lot
it,
of companies should take a cue from what RB are doing right now.
You know, yes, from what Reckitt is actually doing right now, because it's brilliant. To be honest, it's brilliant.
It's still in its infancy, though, right?
Yeah.
And and funnily enough, it's a fresh conversation, right? So, in the car, and you can imagine there was 5 of us on this call because the pillar's not massive, but the purpose is not the people on that pillar leading it. It's for the community out there. One thing we're finding is the engagement of the community. Sometimes you go, well, come on, you need to step up and be involved as well, right?
That's
Don't
what I
wait
was
around
just
for
gonna
everything.
say, that is one thing that these things are in place. Is another thing. How do you encourage people to actually take advantage?
Because
exactly.
they do not believe it. Now, and I'm saying this.
It may be a multitude of things, right?
I've spoken to a lot of people, and it's like, we've heard it before. They've done it before. And also, look at those people on those councils. So a lot of organizations have DEI councils.
Yeah.
And then the people they're supposed to be promoting are underrepresented in the council. Like, how do you make a change in that regard?
Yeah. No, that's why, that's the purpose of these employee resource groups, because, you know, the business, right, can learn from these groups.
Yeah.
Us, we go to the business and tell them, right, this is happening out there. And so, you know, on this call, someone was mentioning there was a stand for D&I. There was a recent health and safety week at one of the Reckitt sites, right? And they said, oh yeah, we asked to put a ERG stand for D&I, race and ethnicity or whatever. And she goes, but it was a bit awkward, right? Because she's not from the health and safety community. She works in R&D. And she goes, it was a bit awkward. I didn't know what to say and whatever, right? And I, you know, me as being me, I was quite vocal. I said, like, listen, no, right? She goes, yeah, but it was health and safety week, so I didn't really see how it can interlink. And I said, no, this is where I disagree with you. It's absolutely interlinked, right? Because D&I is everywhere. Yeah. And this is what I'm trying to promote externally within the field. That's why I'm glad we've caught up, because I'm trying to put together a round table so that we can engage in this topic within the health and safety domain. But I told her this, I go, like, listen, this is where we need to be more smarter in what we're doing. Like, of course it's prominent within the health and safety field, whether it's you're trying to influence and do cross-cultural, you know, understand cross-cultural impact through health and safety initiatives, you know, just things like, oh, we do a program, but does it engage everybody? Because not everybody understands the language. Yeah. Right? Or something like that. Or have we got the right representation within the health and safety domain? Right? If everybody's looking at it from a one kind of a lens, but you've got multiple people, does that give you diversity? And then I said to her this, I go, like, look, this was a health and safety week at a local site, all right? And then you didn't know what to do. Nobody came to my team and picked up the phone or sent me a message or WhatsApp or Teams and said, Krishnen, we've been asked to do this within health and safety. I don't see the connection.
Yeah.
Do you not think I would have given you all of this blah, 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 blah that I'm doing right now to help you see how they're very much enablers of each other? Yeah. But this is where we miss that trick, right? And you try and do it all yourself rather than saying, Krishnen, like, what would you do? And it might not be me. I'll go and speak to one of my team and ask them, right? And so it's we need to be doing more. You're absolutely right. We need to be doing more about this. So we're not like the golden bullet or the silver bullet here in Reckitt, but what I would say is trying and getting the right change agents involved. Yes. Right? The passion, because the motivation will breed motivation.
Absolutely. So I have another question, and this time around is on recruitment. Because a lot of diversity problem starts from the recruitment stage. But do you think a lot of companies are doing enough when it comes to diversity and recruitment?
No. Short answer, no. I think we need to do more. And I think, you know, we need to get ourselves stuck out of this cycle that we're in so there's a lot of talk about it.
Yes.
Right? But I don't really see much doing about it. I think the Amazon model is good. I remember actually when I got the job at Reckitt 2017, I interviewed with Amazon as well. So I went through the Amazon. It wasn't a diverse panel, I have to say, that that interviewed me. So it's great to hear that they've evolved their process, because this was 7 years ago.
Yes.
So those examples are great examples. But what you'll find is those examples are probably the minority rather than the majority.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yes,
and that's what companies need to get better at. And the only way we're going to change that is by people like us calling it out, right? And senior leaders within companies calling for more inclusive recruitment. So take the example of, because it's not only the hiring manager that has skin in the game, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's the HR colleagues and the recruitment teams and whatever, right? So when they go, like I was interviewing mid and into this year, right? And then we've got our own internal recruitment team. And I said, like, listen, I want representative candidates, because we know in the health and safety field, it's very male dominated.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then it could be, white male dominated if you're in the UK, right? And I saw that from the candidate. I said, look, I want when we were doing the job profile, the JD and everything, I said, I want representative candidates. So, I want to mix male, female. I want to mix culturally.
Yeah.
Ideally intersectionality kicking in. So not just female, but black female or cultural female, minor ethnicity female, et cetera, et cetera. And all communities, right?
Yes.
If disabled, LGBTQ plus, et cetera, right? And then even that was a calibration of, we'll try our best, but we can't guarantee it. And I go, well, right there is one of the fail points.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the pipeline.
Yeah.
Right there. And don't get me wrong, it was said innocently and whatever, but I go, well, if you go and give me 9 males out of that shortlist, it's going to be very difficult to have that representative process and whatever. So it's just simple things like that. But the way that we need to call it out is, as a hiring manager, if you're out there, know what your power of influence is, just by the language that you use, and how you're trying to push your agenda. Because if you're just trying to get a bum on the seat and do it the fast way, you're just going to run it that way, right? But if you're prepared and know and want to go through a little bit of pain, go for the inclusive way. And you know what? In the long run, you're probably going to get that gain.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. But the question is, do we want to take that option, or do we want to take the easy option?
Easy option, yeah.
All right? And that's the challenge for it. So it's any recruit, and this is a message to any recruitment firm even, right? All of those recruitment firms, like, don't just scan on LinkedIn and go and look at who's the global health and safety director or the head of this or whatever. Go and look at profiles. Go and get representative profiles. Look at the dynamics of the way that organizations are trying to move as well.
Yes.
Help those organizations by giving them representative candidates.
Yes.
Because let me tell you something, right, out there. Everybody that you employ is a risk. Everyone. All 3 of us are a risk. We've all got development areas, right?
Yes.
I've got development areas.
Yes.
When my boss put me in this position, I wasn't the fully fledged EHS director or whatever, right? Every position I've gone in. When I went into that site EHS position back in 2011, I wasn't a site EHS manager before. I was a risk. So those people there, and this is like, 13, 14 years ago now, right? They took that risk on me, and I can't thank them enough.
Yes.
Because that was that long ago, right?
Absolutely.
And even now we're facing the same problem.
Yes.
And why? I see it because people want to rush through these things, and so on. So talking from an individual perspective, because I know that commentary probably doesn't help the person that's looking for the position.
Yeah.
Right? But what I would ask you is, when you're going for roles, remember, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you.
Absolutely.
And just remember that. Remember your position, remember who you are, and remember what you can offer organizations, right? So, I do it. If I'm in conversations, right, I'll go, do I really want to work for this company, right? what does their strategy look like? What does whether it's a technical strategy, health and safety strategy, inclusion strategy, company strategy, whatever it'll be. Sorry.
Yeah, and what you just said is quite interesting. And the reason why I'm smiling is because some people might be looking at this and say, "Oh, it's easy for you to say. You've got choices. We don't. We just want the first job that comes our way."
Yeah.
I get that too. I get that too.
Conversation.
Yeah.
Remember, Ayo, we actually had that conversation, and you know, when I heard Krishnen say it, I remember we talked about it. Sometimes for some people, you're going into that interview, you know that you've been in it, you've come out of it, you know, I really don't want to be here.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a couple of times I've actually told Ayo, you know, in the past, that, I went for this interview and I'm not going there, you know.
And then
But
what do you do?
Yeah.
Do you take the job if they offer it to you, or do you not?
No. I've been, but
And that's a strength of character.
Yes, but that's now, to be honest. If we're being honest, that's now.
Yeah.
Before you would have
Back in
taken
the day,
it.
you take the
Back
job.
in the day, you would have
Yeah.
taken it because
You do take
because
it.
you
I
want the
probably would have
experience.
taken it,
Yeah.
because I needed the experience, especially
Yeah.
when I just finished from my
South Wales,
masters,
yeah.
you know, from South Wales. I probably would have taken the job regardless.
It's tough.
But now, because I've grown, you know, I'm at that point where
You're grown, you're skilled.
Yes.
You know,
Yes,
you have the
I did.
experience, so
Yes,
you're
I've
more,
got the
you have more
experience, I've got a lot
confidence, more
Yes.
courage.
Yeah, so I've got a lot more in my sleeves now. I can say, you know what? No, I've been in an interview before. I finished it off, and I said, no, I'm
Yeah.
not taking this job.
Yeah.
There were loads of
You
things.
can
but
feel it, right?
You can feel it. That's it. But now, for those that we know that, yes, you know, you're at that point where you're thinking, well, I don't have an option.
Yeah, I need to take something.
I need to take something for the experience or even for the pay.
Yeah.
Because the bills won't take care of
Yeah, exactly.
themselves,
In this current
you know?
economy as well, with the
Yes.
high interest rates and
Yes.
everything.
But one of the key things that I think I've also taken away from here, and I'm just going to reiterate that because I've always done that, you know, right through, even when I was in Nigeria, back to the masters and afterwards my doctoral research and stuff like that. I've always known that your development plan is more personal, first personal than it is organizational.
Thing
Really
I wanted
good
to
point.
add to
Really good point.
Yeah.
what you just said about you developing yourself. Most important thing I always take from there is, what do I know as to what to do in terms of development? Because it's a question a lot of people do ask me. Oh, I want to go do my chartered IOSH. And I was like, hang on a minute. Do you have ISO certification in your organization? Yeah. Are you ISO certified yet as an auditor? No. Okay. You will do your chartership, but you've not even developed yourself in terms of your skills. So my advice to people out there is, when you're looking at personal development, it might be all right to speak to mentors or to speak to your coaches and just ask, what do I need to do at this stage in my career? Because it's just easy for people to like, oh, my friend is doing that, I'm going to do that as well. Yeah. And I've seen that a lot.
You need to match what you're going to do and what you're going to... Because look, anything that you're going to go and... So first thing's exploring, right?
Yeah.
However you want to explore. But then when you make the decision to commit, and anything you're going to commit to needs effort,
Yes.
right? You know, needs investment of your time or whatever it is. Like, so, you know, when you've done your masters, you've done your courses, I've done my courses, you got to be committed to kind of go and do it, right?
Yes.
So then so it's a really good point, because you want to match what you're going to commit to that aligns with your personal development plan and your career plan and what you want to go to. But I really get that point, because I did kind of stress some things where some people can go, well, he's living in the clouds now because, you know, I just need a job, right? Yeah. And I go, go get that job then, right? Go prepare yourself for getting that job. Go and learn. Build up those building blocks.
Yes.
Because that's what I did, right? As soon as I walked into that first site that I walked into, right, I knew, I was like, oh, God, it's a shithole, right? Like, how am I going to go through this, right? And whatever.
I like that word.
But then I was, then I thought to myself, but it still gives me an opportunity to do lots of things that I wasn't able to do at GSK. And show myself and grow, right? And be who I am. So when I went into that first site director job, site EHS leader job, did I think at this point of my career I'd be a global health and safety director? No, I didn't. No, I didn't. but my path just developed. It's your plan. You know, the organizations you work for are an enabler of what your plans are. So sometimes it is like, because we're all in situations, we know there's personal environments out there where you go, I just need to do this job. You know, I need to do this job to crack on through. But that shouldn't let you stray away from what your own plan is and what your end goal is. And you go, right, look, you know, you hear the stories from these Hollywood actors. They were working in bars and as waitresses and doing extra jobs and doing all of that.
Did it well.
And they did all of that because they needed to do that. They needed to put food on the table. They needed to pay the bills. All right. But at the end of the day, now Samuel Jackson's Samuel Jackson.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Now Denzel's Denzel.
Krishnen.
Well, yeah, you know, like I'm just trying to be Krishnen, right? I'm just trying to be Krishnen, right? But you are you, right? Constance, Ayo's Ayo, right? And this is the, you know, the uplift that you have, because I know, and I still see it now, I don't see many global directors in health and safety that look like us, that have got us. But all those people out there can be.
Yes, absolutely.
Because if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And through our mentoring and coaching, that's exactly what we're trying to do. And with this podcast, we're trying to get more people. You can do it. Anywhere you are, if you're watching this, you can do it.
You can do it. Yeah. You can do it. Know yourself. Be confident. Apply yourself. Recognize to do it is multidimensional.
Yeah.
It's not just by having the best qualifications, NEBOSH, IOSH,
Masters,
Bish-Bosh,
PhD,
right?
Bish-Bosh.
You know, it's not about that, right? Like if you do it in that one dimension, you might get there. It's likely you might not.
Yeah.
Right? If you do it just by, oh yeah, I know Constance and Io and whatever, but then you can't answer the point of, well, what qualification do you have?
Yes.
I don't have that ISO qualification that you're looking for. Sorry. You might get there, you might not, right? And so, but when you put those two those dimensions together, you go, well, there's going to be more chance of getting there, right? And so it's kind of having all of that, because some courses that I've done in my career, I did myself, right? I remember when I went to the regional position that Andrew interviewed me for, and I said it was 2012 or something, and he said to me, he goes, in that interview, he goes, why should I give you this position? Because you're not chartered. And bearing in mind, I was only like 2 years in health and safety, right? Yeah. Like I was kind of thinking, you know, all of this is coming at me at whirlwind speed.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I went, all right, if you want me to get chartered, I'll go and get it, right?
Yeah.
And then he goes, so what, you're saying you can get chartered? I go, yeah, how long does it take? And he goes, well, it can take people ages. I went, I don't know, like, I'll go and get it though. If that's what you want.
That's what you want, yeah.
If that's what you want, I'll go and get it, right? So I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
Yeah.
And one of the things he said when I the feedbacks of why he gave me the job, he goes, I like your tenacity because I gave you an uncomfortable question and you said, I'll go and get it, right? Because you didn't even you didn't ask the question of, how are you going to help me get it? You said, I'll go and get it. And what did I need to do? So then I came out of it and I go, well, how do I need to get IOSH from where, chartered from where I am?
Yeah.
And I saw I needed to go and get like, there was a few options. I could go and get a diploma and do it that way, but I already had some level of qualifications. Yeah. So I did the NVQ way.
Yes.
Right? I did the NVQ. It was cost, you know, at that time, because I wasn't a global director or whatever. I did it. That was cost conscious for myself. Yeah. So I invested in it. Self-investment. Yeah. Did the NVQ. So this conversation I had with Andrew was the interview was call it 2012-ish time. By mid 2013, I got my NVQ. Now they did say that was faster than most people. Yeah. But I got my NVQ. I then put my papers in for my chartered. 2014, I was chartered. Now,
Fantastic.
honestly, has the chartered really helped me? Like, you know,
That's another conversation.
That's a conversation for another day.
but the answer to that is yes.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because any role that I've got after that,
Yeah.
they saw I had chartered on my
Yeah.
CV and they couldn't
Yeah.
take that away from me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
But practically, realistically,
It
because I'm
doesn't-
a
it's not
practitioner,
change-
Yeah.
it's just-
right?
it's
Then
not
I go,
change anything,
like,
yeah.
It's just another
you know, like
title.
when I said all those hours ago, I said to my kids, did 12 times, knowing what 12 times 12 is, get to where I am now? Help me get to where I am now? No, but yes, because I needed that to get my papers.
Yeah.
Yes.
So did chartered help me
Help
to
you
get
together.
where I am now?
No, but yes.
No,
because
but yes.
yes, it
Do you know
makes
what I mean?
people call you for an interview. No, it doesn't change what you know.
Yeah, exactly. No,
put
it
that
doesn't. It doesn't. But even now, like, and I do the same thing for when I'm interviewing. You're only grad level or cert level of IOSH, right? We're looking for chartered members. And then the thing, I'm thinking to myself, Krishnen, you're being hypocritical.
Yeah, because they didn't give you that chance.
But then I'm going, no, but I do want them because I want to see that passion. I want to see that aspiration for growth.
Yes.
I want to see that drive
Yeah.
that,
Would
you
it
know,
hinder you from giving
Anyone a job
whoever
because
you
they've not got
think is the
chartership.
right person? the
So
job?
picture this: I just hired somebody in the role, my backfill, the head of health and safety. I gave her that direct question. I went, "You're not chartered. You're cert IOSH
Cert,
level. Why is that? Right?" And then she gave the answer, and then she goes, "Oh, it's never really helped me get any jobs in the past." And I said this, and I go, "It'd help you get this one."
Yeah.
Right? And then when we had a follow-up interview, so we kept her on
Yeah.
the short list. We had the follow-up interview. She goes, "Listen to yourself, what you said. So I've started the path to get my chartered."
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons why I've given her the job.
Yeah.
And I've given her the job. She's not chartered status. And I said, we're going to invest in you. So we'll pay for all of that. Don't worry about all of that. But the fact of the matter is that you did what I did to Andrew all those
Yeah,
years ago.
yes.
Yeah.
And you said, I didn't realize. But then the next time we spoke, you said, I've already started my journey to chartered. That shows a drive.
Yes.
That shows something that you go, the next person that's probably chartered that didn't show that drive,
Yeah.
that's already one up.
Yes. Yes.
And then she's coming to an organisation and to a team like mine where I went, don't worry about all the fees. We'll
we'll
cover
pay
all the
for
fees.
it.
that,
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of being able to just navigate who you're speaking to and reading that room,
Yes.
Yeah.
right? Reading that room. Because sometimes you're speaking to people and you go, I really want this job. But how do I come across that I'm not desperate? Right? So I've got that confidence in that, you know, they're going to invest in me and they see me as the best candidate. Sometimes you go, oh my God, why the hell am I here? Right? You know, that situation of, I don't really want this job. And then sometimes you go somewhere in between and go, I don't know if I want this job, but I need this job. Right? So that's a dilemma that,
Yeah.
and how do you navigate those dilemmas? What decisions do you make? So sometimes you do need to make that decision. Like you said, I've got to take this job, but I know I'm not going to be in this job that long. But what I learn in this job is going to help my CV
Yeah.
and help me get the next job.
Yes.
And that next job is going to be the one that I really, really want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you were before we round up, you're just saying something there that caught my attention. As a hiring manager, what do you look out for in the CV before you shortlist it?
Oh, good question. I always look out for what they've done,
Okay.
right? Honestly speaking, I don't really read CVs,
Okay.
right? A lot of CVs
Yeah.
are long.
Yeah.
And, you know, you always got to remember a lot of hiring managers out there don't go past the first page.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or first page and a half.
Yes.
So makes those first 2 pages. If your CV's 4 pages long or whatever, because some of them will make sure the first page and a half is the punchy bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually look at, well, what did they do?
Yeah.
Right? So what does their career tell me?
Okay.
That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
So then they'll go, oh, right, I did some years at Reckitt. go, okay, so what'd you do at Reckitt? Yeah, you know, what were those accomplishments?
Yes.
That's what I'm really looking for.
Yeah.
Because then those accomplishments I can probe in interview.
Yeah.
Of course, I'll look at qualification, but the
Yeah.
qualification bit is 10 seconds.
Yes.
What's the highest level of qualification? It's this, right? They'll have a technical level
Yes.
Yeah.
that I'd be familiar with.
Yeah.